Hey everybody, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the ribs and the sternum today. So we'll start off with the sternum. The sternum is actually made up of three pieces. So here's the body of the sternum, the manubrium, and the xiphoid process. Let's go ahead and start with the manubrium. We can see there's quite a few things connected to the manubrium. We have the clavicles, which are connected superiorly. We have rib 1, and then we have a piece of rib 2. Let's go ahead and hide these ligaments. Just about 1/2 of the costal cartilage from rib 2 attaches to the manubrium. Let's go ahead and isolate just the manubrium. This is fairly accurate. I will say on the real manubrium, it could just be that the real bones kind of break down over time, but I'm not used to seeing such a clear divider between this notch here and this notch. But basically this is what a typical manubrium looks like. So let's go ahead and get labeling. The first thing we're going to label is this notch right here. You can actually feel this on yourself. If you go ahead and find your manubrium, you can feel a notch in between your two clavicles. That is this notch here. It's called the jugular notch. It can also be called the sternal notch, and I actually saw it on a boards exam. I guess I shouldn't say that. I saw it on a practice boards exam, and it was called the suprasternal notch. So those are all appropriate. Right next to the jugular notch on either side, we have these two clavicular notches. Your sternal facets of your clavicles articulate here. And this is actually the only bony attachment of your arm to your body, which is kind of interesting. You think of your legs, for example, and they have this really strong attachment to your acetabulum in your hip. Your arms don't really have that. Your scapula just sort of floats on your back, and the only attachment of your scapula, which is where your humerus connects, is through this little tiny joint right here called the sternoclavicular joint. That's why a lot of folks, if they fall on a bike or fall snowboarding, they can break their clavicle. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the costal facets now. So there's only two on the manubrium. Technically, it's just 1.5. So this is the costal facet for rib 1, and this is half of the costal facet for rib 2. Let's go ahead and bring back everything. So here, oops, sorry about that. You can get dizzy doing this. So here we've added back in all of the ribs and costal cartilage. I'm going to go ahead and hide these ligaments here so we can see the costal cartilage better. So you can see the costal cartilage of rib 2 is split halfway between the manubrium and the body of the sternum. Let's look at all the ribs. So rib 1 and rib 2, or rib 1 attaches to the manubrium, rib 2 is split. Ribs 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 attach directly to the body of the sternum. 8 and 9 down here, they're attached to the body of the sternum, but indirectly. They're attached by this cartilage bridge. And then ribs 10 and 12 aren't attached at all. So you can see, I'm sorry, ribs 11 and 12 aren't attached at all. You can see ribs 11 and 12 right here. So let's remove this costal cartilage, and you can get a better view. I wish I knew how to get rid of this. There we go. You can get a better view of all of the costal facet. So here is costal facet 1. Here is half of costal facet 2. Here's the other half right here on the body of the sternum. This is costal facet 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we'll add in 1 and the other half of 2, and you can see costal facets 1 through 7. The next thing, this isn't an anatomical structure necessarily, but the next thing I want to show you guys is this concept or this idea called the sternal angle. That angle is this one here. It's very small in this particular skeleton, but it's the angle between the manubrium and the body of the sternum. So this angle here is called the sternal angle. Alright, we've already seen all the structures on the body of the sternum. The only structures we're labeling are the costal facets. So that brings us to the last component of the sternum, which is the xiphoid process. Here it is, and the only thing we're going to label on the xiphoid process is another angle, really. It's actually called a notch. It's the infrasternal notch, and it's the notch between the xiphoid process and this very last piece of costal cartilage right here. So that gap there, that notch, is called the infrasternal notch.